Thanks for tuning in to Andrea in the Morning. This is Andrea Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in and following. I hope you've liked our page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/sugar-free coach, as well as on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitter at sugar-free coach. I will follow back and reciprocate. I always do. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show, Andrea in the Morning. I am your host, Andrea Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach, and I appreciate you all so much for listening. As always, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please do go back and do that. I have got some awesome guests that we have been sharing with you. Shout out to everyone in the creators community, writers, authors, illustrators, publishers, musicians. Shout out to you all, and thank you so much for participating in this awesome journey and sharing your gifts with the world and your knowledge. Since I don't have a guest today, it's just Morky Fee and I. We are back to our usual outside, so you might hear a lot of background noise, but y'all know how we do. We just take it as it comes and keep it very, very real life for you. So today we are going to be talking about some tips and resources, information I found out and discovered from the writing process, from other writers and creators, as well as a little bit about Living Sugar-Free Revealed. I'm not going to be doing a lot of interviews, just quite frankly, because I'm too busy interviewing other people. So this is just an opportunity for me to share a little bit more about Living Sugar-Free Revealed. We did a recent promo, ebook promotion, and we got some awesome feedback from that. So I wanted to give you the chance just to hear a little bit more about it and give you an opportunity to share your feedback as well. If you are one of the amazing, awesome people who have shared yourself, your time with us, and you've read Living Sugar-Free Revealed, please do go to Amazon and write a review. Your input and feedback is very, very valuable, and I'm just so grateful for all of the reviews that I've gotten. Even if you're not on Amazon, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. So we're going to get into it here after a break. If you haven't gotten a copy of Living Sugar-Free Revealed, you can do that on Amazon. If you don't find it, just start at my website, sugarfreecoaching.com. If you're following around the internet, I appreciate you. If not, go ahead and do that. You can catch me on all pretty much social media platforms, all the main ones. You can search at Sugar Free Coach or hashtag Living Sugar Free, and you'll find me. If there's anything added in there, it's not me. I was the only sugar-free coach when I first started, but now there's quite a few tags with sugar-free coach, and I'm not mad about it. I appreciate people for promoting a healthier way of living. So I got a review today that it was really awesome that said she thought she was going to be reading about how to give up sugar, and she really, really understood what the purpose of the book was for. So I really appreciate that, and that's why your reviews are so important. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back, and thanks again for joining me for this writing community episode of the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show in a month-long series on creators. So we're going to be talking to all types of creators, you guys, and if you would like to submit to be part of this journey, we'd love to have you. Go ahead and respond to any of the posts that you see floating around social media, that invite. And if you've already been on, you probably already tagged someone. So we've got a nice lineup of people that are going to be coming on. I'm very excited to share all of this amazing knowledge, wisdom, and resources, and also all of these great, amazing books and films and audiobooks. Ooh, I have been doing some reading. I've probably read more fiction in the past 10 days than I have in the past 10 years, and I am not exaggerating. I literally listened to 2 audiobooks in the past week. I read 2 children's books last week, maybe it's been the week before. Well, we've been doing this since the very early part of August, or just before August. I'm also working on 2 sci-fi books that I'm reading, one historic novel. I've got a long list of books on my summer reading list. I'm going to share some of those with you later on in the show. And it's just been such an exciting journey. We've got Morky Fee with us today. She'll probably be making some noise, so, don't mind her. If you've got questions for Morky Fee, you can ask them. I don't think she can answer them, though. But if you got questions about Morky Fee, feel free to send those in as well, because she is our co-host. And you can follow her on Instagram. So we're going to be talking about Living Sugar-Free Revealed, and I have got my interview questions that I normally ask others, and I'm going to answer them for you. So the very first question is, tell us about yourself. What is your name? Where are you from? And what type of medium you use. So again, this is for all creators and not just authors of books, but also too poets and also playwrights and filmmakers, as well as illustrators and so many different genres, so many mediums, you guys. They're all very, very important, and we are moving back, I believe, to an age of creativity. I believe that all humans have some type of creative ability, even if you haven't tapped into it, even if it's a thing that you love doing but you're not very good at it, in your opinion. You never know when you could paint something and you just think, oh, I'm just dabbling, it's horrible, and then it end up being a classic piece. So don't be so hard on yourself when it comes to creating. Artistic expression is just that, expression, and the importance should be placed more on the creative expression, the artistic expression, than it is on the quality, because when it comes to art, quality is subjective. So I'm going to say that again throughout the show. Quality is subjective. My very first book was a memoir. It's still creative expression. I was of course, my name is Andrea Raquel. I was an English major in college, and I studied all types of literary forms. I very much enjoyed it. I have a lot of favorite authors, a lot of old authors that we probably don't even hear about anymore, that are no longer with us, or that were gone before I was even born. And I was also a philosophy major, and so I include those people. And Daniel Chapman, who's one of the people we interviewed the other day, made an excellent point about how, back in the day, during the days of Einstein and Van Gogh and Michelangelo, people were polymaths. And I believe a lot of people are polymaths nowadays as well, but it's just not encouraged to tap into all of your various abilities and interests. If you follow business leaders and marketing executives, coaches, they will encourage you to focus in on one thing. And, as a salesperson, I did that too. Yes, it's important. If you want to sell and make a lot of money, then it's important that you hone in on that thing and get really good at it, focus on promoting it. But for those of us that are really more about the creative expression and really just kind of living who we are out loud, you just can't close off your various parts of who you are, because if you do that, you hinder another part. One thing leads to another, and one area taps into the other. And if you believe in the law of attraction, you may have a business that's a very scientific-based brick-and-mortar type business. However, you can be out and about doing something artistic and meet someone for the one thing based on the other. So I just fully believe in a holistic approach. And certainly you do have to focus. I suggest focusing on one thing at one time, but that doesn't mean that when you hit a wall and you get sort of a writer's block or creative block, as Daniel and I talked about the other day, it's okay to put that thing down, walk away from it, and go focus on something else. And if you open up your mind to tapping into all of your different abilities, your different areas of expression, it's a lot easier to do that, because you always have something that you can work on, and you don't sit there and beat yourself up because you've hit a block. And I notice a lot of writers doing that. You're trying to get a novel published, you might be under deadlines, and you've got a word count you're trying to get in, and you're just sitting there staring at a blank page. Well, walk away from it. Don't force yourself into that, because A, it's not going to be very good, and you know how all of our inner editors are. But B, if you go focus on something else, chances are when you come back to that page, it's going to flow a lot better. A lot of times when we kind of get our conscious brains out of the way, our writing flows much, much better. So yeah, that's enough about that. So back to the questions. I love nonfiction books. And of course, good ones. One of my favorites of all time is The Road Less Traveled. And another one of my favorites is Blink. If you haven't read those two books, they are both must reads. If you go to my Amazon influencer page, and again, you can find that from sugarfreecoaching.com, there's a link that says refers. Click on that and go to my Amazon page, and there's a book called, there's a list called Read a Book. I say that a lot when I'm faced with ignorance, but yeah, read a book. And don't just read books that are fun. Read books that are going to enhance your mind. Not necessarily self-help. You know, people are calling mine a self-help. I didn't intend to write a self-help book, but if it helps people, I am all too happy to wear that mantle as well. But read books that enhance you, even if it's just a book that you want to learn more about something. You know, you might be a banker, but you want to learn about airplanes, or you might be a retail person, but you want to learn about, cooking, or whatever the thing is. Expand your mind a little, and don't just get comfortable only reading your genres, because it expands you. You know, I am pretty much a nonfiction sort of person, and I have been reading a lot of fiction, and guess what? It's going to help my writing. I am working on a couple of different nonfiction books right now, and certainly all of these amazing books that I've read are definitely going to help to kind of loosen up that creative flow, if you will. So, yeah, what form do I write in? I just can't really put myself into that box. Sometimes I do write poetry. I have written a play before. I've been writing since I was a young child, so I have written all different types of genres, and I've also worked in all different types of creative mediums. Sometimes I get a wild hair and I feel like painting something. I love to color. I don't necessarily draw, but I have before. I don't think I'm very good at it, but it doesn't stop me from doing it. I also knit. Golly, what else do? I've written a song before. It's not published, but maybe it will be, who knows. Golly, what else do I like to do that has to do with creative expression? I don't know, y'all. Whatever hits me, whatever the mood hits me. I got a challenge the other day from Brian Cutter, who is an actor, filmmaker. He's working on an amazing novel. If you want to listen to his interview, go back and do that. He'll share more about that. And we're going to have Brian back on as well as Daniel throughout this season. But you know, he said that if you're not seeing the type of stuff that you want to see, then you need to create it. And one of my biggest pet peeves is, you know, finding people in films that I can relate to. And usually the characters that I can relate to don't look like me. And that's a problem. It's not necessarily a problem for me, and it really, to be honest with you, never was a problem for me, but that doesn't make it true for everyone. You know, I had a very strong mother and other very strong people in my life who encouraged me to be who I am. But there are people who need to see images that look like them. So guess what? There's my charge. So maybe I'll do a film. Who knows? Okay, so the title of my book is Living Sugar-Free Revealed SABRE Secrets. Why did I call it that? Because, of course, my brand is Living Sugar-Free, and I'm an SABRE. So I figured what better way to introduce my brand, myself, and my heart to the world than to write from a behind-the-scenes perspective. I did self-publish. I published my book on Amazon. It was a great experience. You all have no complaints. Of course, the very first time doing it, it was a little confusing, but they have great instructions. I have been an Amazon publisher for quite a while, and I had a couple of other titles that I was going to publish first and then decided this one. As I mentioned, you know, oftentimes I'm working on multiple projects, and one will push the other to the back burner. So as I've been a member, they transitioned to the new KDP platform, and I don't have any complaints. I've read a lot of complaints. I'm not experienced, so I don't know the difference. But there are people that have a lot of complaints about it. Do not let it discourage you. There are a lot of other platforms that you can use. I checked them all out. In my opinion, I felt like Amazon, the KDP, was just the easiest. And a lot of times when it comes to this technology, you'll hear me say, kind of the old phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. I am going to use the thing that's easiest for me. I'm all for supporting small business. I'm all for supporting minority business. I'm all for supporting local business. But if whoever that business is does not invest what they need to invest into making their product or service easy for me to use, I don't feel that I should take on that burden. That's, to me, an example of how people always say you can't help someone else until you help yourself, or sometimes we can go too far to help others, and to me that's an ideal example. Now, I might give someone the shirt off my back if I'm close to getting inside and I don't have to walk around naked, but I don't think that I should have to spend a whole bunch of extra hours trying to get a book published just for the sake of utilizing the local company or the smaller platform. So I went with the easiest one, the one not just that was easy to use, but the one that was going to give me the most reach. And I feel like it's done an amazing job. A lot of the work that you have to do, they've done for you. So if you don't have a publisher, if you're not interested in submitting your book to publishers, this is a great option. And oftentimes, just by the traffic that you can generate for something that you've published, it can end up being republished by a major publisher. So don't feel like if you don't get accepted by a major publisher right off the bat that you never can. Go ahead and do the work. Promote your story. Maybe only do part of it. Maybe save something back that you can add to it for the sake of republishing with another publisher. But they also take books as is and republish them. Maybe the publishing company may ask you to change some things or what have you. I already answered the genre question. How did I start writing? I don't remember. I've been writing forever. I think that writing short stories was sort of part of my learning process, not just in school, but my big sister has always been sort of a teacher, mentor, and we used to do little projects and play school even before I was in school. I learned math before I went to school. Thank goodness, because I'm not very good at it. But, I did very well in it. So, and this is a great example of, what we talked about as well the other day with Daniel Chapman, and that's why my book's called Aspie Secrets, because there are a lot of things about people who are on the spectrum that you may not realize, especially when we appear to be quote unquote too well adjusted to be autistic. The reason that's such a horrible phrase to label someone with is because you're putting that person back inside of the box that they're trying so hard to break out of. So I scored really high marks. If I go take a test today, the LSATs and all those types of things you have to take throughout the years, I do really well on them. But that doesn't mean that math is easy for me. The whole time I was getting my autism diagnosis, I felt like I was failing the little tests that they give you to check your IQ. I felt like I was failing them miserably. Come to find out, I scored really high. So we struggle with things, even though we may be really good at figuring it out and mastering it, it doesn't mean that it's not a struggle. And so the ability to cope and the ability to have life management and self-management skills can go a very long way with someone who is autistic and may be on the verge of having a meltdown. It doesn't mean they can't accomplish the task, but the process of getting to that accomplishment can be very, very overwhelming. So, that's why I work on multiple things, because I allow my brain to sort of flow in the different areas that it wants to, because if not, I never find out, just how talented I may be at a particular thing. So I've been writing since forever. I don't even remember. I wrote a sci-fi when I was 16 years old, and I've still got the notes for it. And it's interesting because, the way things have changed, I'm actually probably going to end up publishing it, finishing it and publishing it. Let's see, mentors that encouraged me. Well, I had the one that I remember. I had a lot of really great teachers. I had some that weren't so great. You can read about that in the book. But I had one that was really great. But that wasn't until like my senior year in high school. And she really encouraged me to get into English Lit, which is probably why I'm doing what I do now. That's probably a defining moment as well, because she forced me to go to summer school for English so that I didn't have to do, and also math, so that I didn't have to do all of the cursory classes that are required in college, which made my process easier and made it not as miserable for me and kind of put me a little further ahead. So that's enough about me for right now. We're going to take a break and we'll come back and I'm going to share more tips and kind of recap on some of the awesome things that we've talked about. But definitely go back and listen to my first week's interviews with Daniel Chapman and Brian Cutter. We are also going to be interviewing Dr. John M. Ketchum, and golly, we have got some awesome interviews lined up. I want to get everybody's name right. We've got Kyle Hester, who is a filmmaker. We've got, and his film is Preacher 6. We also got Dr. Tara Sanderson. She's a psychologist, and she focuses on mental health and ASD. Let's see, Diallo, excuse me. Did I say Leigh Grissom? You guys, she's the one who wrote those 2 books that I was totally engulfed with. I didn't talk to anybody for a few days because I was listening to KLS 9 and SABRE 6. Oh my gosh, must reads. You guys, they're a little edgy, so if you're sensitive, maybe don't. But if you like good, gritty action, sci-fi, futuristic dramas, must read. And the audiobooks are awesome. I recommend audiobooks because you can't always read. You're in the car, you're doing other stuff, you're cooking, whatever, you can still listen to an audiobook. So and we're going to also have some other authors. I'll talk about those after the break, and we'll be right back in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Kyle Hester, producer and star of the independent film Preacher 6, and you are listening to Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show with Andrea in the Morning.
Welcome back, and thank you again for joining me for this writing community episode of the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show. It is the 4th episode in the whole entire series on creatives and the creative community. We're covering all different types of mediums and all different types of genres, from novels to films to visual arts. So hopefully we'll have a nice diverse mix. I've got quite a few people lined up, and a lot of these people cross mediums and genres. So we're getting a lot of 3-for-1s. I won't even say 2-for-1s. I'll say 3-for-1s, which is really awesome because y'all know that I am very much into the whole polymath concept, and I really believe that people should be able to express themselves in various ways and be encouraged to do so. So bear with us. We've got the landscapers going. I got started a little late today. I had kind of a long weekend. I'm blaming it on Leigh Grissom because I stayed up late several nights. Fell asleep listening and was mad that I had missed a part and had to go back and rewind. And I didn't fall asleep because it was boring. I fell asleep because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Leigh, not just kidding, you guys. It was so awesome. It's kind of like when you start binge watching a series on television. The next thing you look up and you watch 20-something episodes. That's kind of how I feel, after having listened to these audiobooks. So I'm going to cover a bunch of titles that are on my summer reading list from the writing community. I'll run down those as well, but I want to share with you, and I know I did a little bit, but I might have left somebody off, so I'm going to read off the list and make sure that I get all of their works included as well. So coming up over the next few weeks, we might have Brian Cutter back. You can go back and listen to his episode, as well as Daniel Chapman. Brian is an actor. Daniel is an author. Actually, they're both authors. Brian is working on a film currently. He didn't tell us a whole lot about it because it's a secret, but I can tell y'all it's sci-fi. Daniel wrote 2 children's books, and he's got some more titles coming. But again, please do go back and listen to their interviews. We've also got E.H. Knight coming up, you guys. She's the author of Astray, which I am reading now. We've also got Kyle Hester, filmmaker, Preacher 6. We're looking forward to seeing that. Dr. Tara Sanderson, she's the author of Too Much Not Enough. We're going to have her on at the end of the month around the time that her book is going to be released. Dee Dalio, she is the author of Don't Drink the Water, which I'm reading right now, and so far it is very good. She is a military wife, so that story is definitely near and dear to my heart. We're also going to have Dr. John M. Ketchum. He is the author of Failure Talks. You guys, we're going to have him on the Writing Business episode because he shares a lot about his business experience and just transition into living well. And so that's going to be very exciting. We're definitely going to have Leigh on. Leigh Grissom is the author of KLS 9 and SABRE 6, and Eden 1 is coming soon, which I cannot wait for, as well as Janice Malone. She's the author of Burning Out Embers, which I have just dove into, and she's amazing. We've got quite a few more, but I'm working on the schedule, and we're fitting people in when it's convenient for them and when we have space for them. This has taken on a much bigger just concept than I ever imagined when I had the idea. I'm always getting myself into these harebrained schemes, but I'm so glad that I did. And I'm learning so much, and I'm reading so much great content, being exposed to some amazing artists. So it's all very, very exciting. And then there's a lot more on my reading list. So I want to share those with you as well. Bear with me one moment. I'm going to get those so I can share those with you. Bear with me. I don't want to miss a single thing. Okay, so we have got Maria the Wanted. Very excited about that one. We've also got, this one's really good, you guys. The Curse of the Amaranth. That one is awesome too. Whew. Let's see what else. What else am I reading? I'm looking in this little pop-up screen, so it's kind of hard to see them all. Let's see. There's one more I wanted to share with you. I also read How to Punch Kids in the Bathrooms. That was also good. My Persian Paradox and Wife Not Required. Okay, so authors. How to Punch Kids in Bathrooms. That's by John Marzalkowski. Let's see. My Persian Paradox is by you guys, I'm sorry. I didn't put the people who I don't have scheduled on my list here to have it quickly, but I still wanted to share them with you. Shabnam Curtis. So you guys, I've been doing this little post where I've been sharing all of my current reads. So, we may or may not have these people on, but I am reading all of these books from the writing community, and so far they're awesome. Because if it wasn't good, I I would have backed out of it by now. So if it's not good as I get into it, then I'm not going to talk about it. We're not going to be giving any bad reviews on here. But if it's really, really good by the time I get to the end, of course, I'll share my reviews as well across social media. So if you're looking for good reads across various genres, there you go. I've just giving you several. So, okay, so back to what we were talking about. We were just kind of sharing some tips. And if you are one of these authors or someone I've already interviewed, feel free to chime in. You've got your link where you can go ahead and answer additional questions. Feel free to answer questions that you weren't asked. My show is your show. So yeah, before the break, I was answering some of the kind of standard writing interview questions, and you guys will notice that I haven't really asked many of these questions to the people I've been interviewing because they're so interesting. There's so much more about them that I wanted to know. But I covered, the important stuff. So, before the break, I was talking about, how I started writing, some people who influenced me, defining moments. But I also wanted to share just some current mentors or people who have affected me in recent years because I just wrote this book. It was released in January for my birthday, and a lot of people helped influence me with that. Of course, I have the cover is done by Ezra, who is Nehemiah Soul on Instagram, and he is working on a graphic novel, which is going to be awesome. As well, Denise, Simply Denise, she did the photography in the book. And the editor is at Charlotte Knows on Twitter. That's my mom, in case you didn't know. She's an awesome editor. She can read a book in a snap of a finger. And so they, of course, were amazing in the process and helping me get it done and helping me to say, okay, you can go ahead and release it. It's not embarrassing. You're not going to embarrass me. And also to, let's see, I want to shout out Pastor Melvin Bell, who has been an amazing influence in my life as an adult and encouraged me. And I also want to shout out Vita Brooks. She is an awesome mentor for veterans and women in general. She also encouraged me. And then also to the entire team of TXNL execs. Keitha Buchanan, Andrew Baker, Anthony Forrester, who encouraged me to do the Did You Know series. These people have all been awesome and really, really gave me the strength and the courage to sort of get it done. So, that's the answer to that question in full, if you will. Current writers that inspire me, I sort of already talked about two of my favorite books. John Maxwell is probably one of the biggest influences on my life when it comes to authors. I've been reading, sharing, and actually using his books as training aids since my very first management role, which was, golly, while I was still in college. I love his books. I love his writing style. I love the lessons, how you can kind of grab them in short. And he's just an awesome, awesome guy. I don't know him personally, but I've met him a couple of times, and he's never short on graciousness, kindness. I actually have a video circulating on the internet, and when he first did his Minute with Maxwell, I submitted the word courage. And I actually have a tattoo that says courage, and what he said about courage is so awesome. And he said really that the core of a leader's heart is courage. And that really one with courage is the majority. So I always hold that dear to my heart. Okay, so do I have a team? Well, I just mentioned the people that kind of helped me get the book published. I did not have a publisher, as I said. I self-published, but I definitely had an editor. I definitely also used multiple editing tools. I got multiple eyes on it. You cannot publish a book by yourself. So whether you use a publisher or not, you're going to have a team. Even if it's your spouse and your children, you're going to have a team. And be mindful of, and I've had to share this with several authors, writers. Maybe they don't consider their authors self-authors yet because they're not published. But once you complete a book and you have authored a book, you are an author, in my opinion. Published author is not the same as author. author, in my opinion, is that you have completed something that has your name on it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a book that's circulating on Amazon or in a bookstore. Maybe you authored something for a company that you work for. Maybe you authored a white paper. Maybe you author a blog. Maybe you author a podcast. That's another creative aspect. I do this podcast regularly, and this is my personal original content thoughts. I'm the publisher. So yeah, how'd you find your team? I just talked about the importance. I feel like it's crucial, and I feel like, your team is going to come from around you. You'll hear, once you listen to KLS 9 and SABRE 6, you'll hear, and certainly when she comes on the show for her interview, you'll hear from Leigh Grissom. She talks about that a lot, and just opportunities that sort of kind of fell in her lap. That will happen if you're open to it, okay? Music. Let's talk music. We actually already did. Daniel Chapman is a musician. We're going to have more people who are into music, musicians, producers on the show. And I have a very big passion for music, even though I'm not a musician or a singer. I did play instruments when I was young, but I don't now. I didn't get to play the ones I wanted to play. That's why I probably don't play them still. But maybe one day I'll learn how to play guitar. So what music do I use for background when I'm creating? It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm writing, obviously, I'm not going to listen to anything that makes me sing. When I'm studying or doing anything that requires a lot of brain power in general, I try not to listen to anything that makes me sing or rap or whatever to go along with the music. That's just kind of a standard rule I have. I do listen to classical music. I have a whole box set of various artists' classical CDs that I don't even have the CDs anymore, but way back when I uploaded them into my online listening platform. So I still have those, and that's really a lot of what I listen to when I'm creative, when I'm creating, because a tip, if you didn't know, whenever you're doing something, if you're having a hard time doing it, if you have a hard time staying focused, putting on some classical music or any type of instrumental type of music is a great way to keep that part of your brain focused, but allow you to still accomplish the task. So if you don't have something like that you listen to, definitely do be mindful. Just because it doesn't have words, there are still tones, messages, genres, feels to music, if you will. So depending on what you're writing, listen to something that doesn't throw you off. I mean, if you're trying to write a very, very sweet, loving story, probably don't listen to something that's very harsh and dramatic. You get what I'm saying. I already talked about reading faves, but I left off one of my all-time favorite book, like since I was a kid, is Where the Wild Things Are. And also too, I happen to have this one on my shelf right now. It's one of the books that haven't been lost. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. Let's see. The Road Less Traveled as well. Robert Frost, he's one of my favorite authors. Let's see. Children's books. I really liked Judy Blume when I was growing up. That was one of my favorites. A lot of the other books, I read Gulliver's Travels and Robinson Crusoe and Moby Dick. I read all of those, but I wasn't, really, really into those. Let's see. What else? I think those are all the ones that are coming to mind. So I think those are probably my top faves. I read the Bible a lot. If you are not religious, you might think that the Bible is not for you, but guess what? It can't hurt. And that goes for the Tao and anything else that has ancient wisdom in it. It doesn't have to do with religion. It has to do with, as John Maxwell says, filling yourself up with the things that you want to come back out. Especially if you write things that are hard to write, whether it's a memoir or whether it's fiction. If it's dark and you struggle with holding on to your humanity side, you might want to spend some time reading things that are going to build you back up and fill you back up and allow you to sort of not get caught up in that world of what you're writing. Let's see. Real life versus fiction preference. I kind of already talked about that. I'm a nonfiction person. But if it's good, I read the whole, I didn't mention the Left Behind series by LaHaye and Jenkins. That is one of my all-time favorite book series. I read them all straight through, unless one wasn't available yet, and I waited. I had them all. I don't anymore. But I love that series. It's one of the best science fiction series I've ever read. And you notice I didn't say religious series. I said science fiction. It just was a really, really great book series. What advice do I have for new writers? Well, I've given a lot already. The hardest part for me is getting started. But that's why it's good to work on multiple projects. Keep a notebook. If you have an idea, write it down. Don't worry about not completing that idea at the time. You might come back to it later. As Daniel said, sometimes you'll be working on one thing and you'll get an idea. If you go write it down because you can't work it in, come back to it later and it may end up fitting back in. That also happened with me. I actually wrote my book in chunks and pulled things that I had written during different time periods. What do I love most about writing? It's a great expression of who you are. Whether you're writing nonfiction or fiction. Writing is a great expression of who you are, and it's an opportunity sort of to leave your legacy, to leave something to the world, something that can bring people joy or encouragement, or even if it's just entertainment. New projects. Obviously, this podcast is a huge project. It's going to be going, for the next season, we'll go in a whole different direction. But this creative series is very exciting. I'm so appreciative of all the people who are participating, and I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm excited that it's going to be an archived record of the knowledge and the wisdom and the experiences and ideas and tips and resources of all of these great creators. And I'm very honored to be bringing that to you. Let's see, if I could have dinner with any writer, living or not, who would you choose to dine with? I'm going to have to think on that one for a minute. I've got a lot of favorite people who are no longer living. Albert Schweitzer is one of my favorite psychology/writers. Of course, the Asperger's, Hans Asperger's. And some of these people, you guys, we're talking ancient days. They were sexist. Some of them were racist. I don't judge that when I think about whether someone is someone that I'll respect or not based on what time period you live in. Certainly, if you're living in 2019 and you're, racist or, bashing gay people or sexist, misogynistic or whatever, you have no excuse. Like Brian Cutter said, you have no excuse, especially if you have a large audience and a platform. To whom much is given, much is required. But if you grew up during a time period where women weren't even allowed to wear pants, I'm not judging you based on that, because that's what you know. And, we all have our own minds and we all can tap into what's right and what's wrong. But during certain time periods, it didn't matter if you thought it was wrong or not. That's what they did. So, I've got a lot of people from way back that I kind of like. John Locke, he was a philosopher. And Michelangelo, you guys, he was an artist that everyone knows him as being an artist, but a lot of people don't know that he has some ridiculous odd number of patents. I'm not going to quote it because I don't remember exactly, but it's a ridiculous number. Nikola Tesla is one of my favorite people in history as well. So those are some of my favorite people that I would have dinner with if I could. Jim Rohn. He's no longer with us. Love him. But current living, I'd love to sit down and have dinner with John Maxwell. I did have dinner with John Maxwell, but it was in a room full of a whole bunch of other people. There's just a lot of really awesome people in the world. It doesn't have to be one, You can learn something from almost anyone. Probably anyone. Even if the thing that you learn is how not to be like them, you can learn something from anyone. So I appreciate you guys for joining me for the Writing Community episode of the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show and this creative series that we're doing. I appreciate you all for reading Living Sugar-Free Revealed, Aspie Secrets. I appreciate the people who are sharing reviews. That is so profound. And there are some really awesome authors who are talking about helping authors. They call them writers lists, and they hashtag writing community. I just watched a podcast the other day, and I'll retweet this again, where these two authors talk about how you can help an author out. If you have a book club and you'd like to have me out to share my book, I'd love to do that. If you'd like to have your book club read my book, specifically if you're part of the veterans community or the autistic community, I would love to do that. I definitely want to get it in as many hands as I can for people that it can actually impact in a positive way. But definitely hit share. It doesn't cost anything to hit share. It doesn't cost anything to download an ebook when it's free. It doesn't cost anything. A lot of these books, you guys, before I even got the full book, I will click on where it says sample. You can go on Amazon and you can click sample and you can read enough into a book to share a brief review. You don't have to say it ends well if you didn't read the whole thing. Just talk about the parts that you read. But if you know people who are authors who are trying to sell books, please, 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 please hit share, tell a friend. Don't just sit there and act like you don't see them. You guys, your help and encouragement to an author can definitely, go a long way towards making that person feel supported. And ultimately, if you have friends who are writing books, they're doing that for you. Most authors that I know, they have a passion for the people in their family and the people in their community. They're trying to give something back. So, if you want to stick your toe into the writing community, if you haven't done it yet, don't feel like you can't. There are people who will help you, who will share out of their experience and maybe even their resources. People will help you get your covers done. If you don't know anybody to help you get your cover done, there's a way to do that. That's why Amazon is so awesome. They have a cover creator template in there for you. They have a book writing template in there for you. Definitely follow the templates if you want to be published vast and wide. There are print templates, there are ebook templates, there are sizing templates. You have to get to know all of that. You can't just upload the manuscript. So if you have more questions about that, definitely go ahead and ask them. You can send a message on Anchor if you'd like to ask questions about today's show or anything I've shared, but also if you'd like to ask questions of any of the authors that I've mentioned that are going to be coming on the show. If you send us a message, I'll go ahead and get your message on the air. If not, if you'd just like to send it to us in writing, you can do that too. You can do it on any social media platform, either in a private message or in a public post. And we just appreciate you all for listening. Shout out to all the writers who are working on getting published. I just want to encourage you. You can do it. TXNL has a 90-day writing challenge, a 90-day publishing challenge to help people get their books published. And certainly we're going to help you promote it afterwards, review it, help you edit it if you need that. But that's all I have to share with you for today. I think I covered everything that I was supposed to cover. Y'all say hey to Morky Fee. She's awfully quiet today. But she's with us, and we're going to be back on Wednesday with Dr. John M. Ketchum. He is the author of Failure Talks, and I'm very excited to share his story and hear from him, share his journey, his testimony, and some of his awesome life philosophies. I have been online friends with John for quite a number of years. I think, if I'm wrong, he'll correct me, but I'm pretty sure we met on Empire Avenue. Shout out to all of my Empire Avenue people. And a lot of people that I've been knowing that are authors, this includes you. Don't feel like I'm leaving y'all out. You are welcome. Artists, publishers, we definitely want to hear from you. So even if I didn't tag you, maybe I don't know that you have a book or a film or something that you did, or music, definitely share that. We don't know if you don't tell us, and we want to help you get the word out. I look forward to speaking with you all again on Wednesday. Happy Monday. I hope you all have an awesome and amazing week. Remember, Mondays are for bosses. Write your agenda, make your plan, and if you get thrown off, pick it up and start again. And you can definitely take control and set your destiny and decide on the week that you're going to have. Until next time, this has been Andrea Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach. You've been listening to the Writing Community episode with Andrea Raquel of the Living Sugar-Free Lifestyle Show, Andrea in the Morning. If you're listening from Spotify, shout out. If you're listening from iTunes, or if you're listening from Google Play, shout out to all of you. And also a special shout out to our supporters on Anchor. If you'd like to be a supporter of the show, definitely pop over and do that. We appreciate you for helping us do what we do. Take care and talk soon.